What's up guys, Nick Friend here. Welcome to part 3 of my Depth in Imagery series, and today I'm talking about camera movement. And the first thing that comes to mind, at least for me, when I'm thinking about camera movement is like the things that I need to move the camera. And for time's sake, I'm not gonna go into all the different kinds of things that you need to move your camera around, but you have things like sliders, gimbals, Steadicams, ready rigs, easy rigs, and all these different apparatuses. But they cost a lot of money a lot of the time, and there are some inexpensive ones, but in my experience you kind of get what you pay for. Something that we all probably have though is a tripod. So today we're going to talk about 2 main ways that you can use your tripod to get some really cool camera moves other than just the pan and tilt move that you would normally get from a regular fluid tripod head. Why would you want to move a camera? Well, there's a bunch of different reasons. You kind of have to figure it out for yourself. When you move the camera, it's to bring the audience into a situation or to bring an audience out of a situation in a transitional sort of way. There's also another sensation with moving a camera called parallax, which is the apparent difference in speed between objects in the foreground and objects in the background. And this is most easily accomplished by using a wide angle lens and having certain things closer to the lens and your subject farther away from the lens. And this creates a difference in speed between what's going on in the foreground and what's going on in the background. And that makes the movement look much more apparent. This idea kind of piles on top of foreground obstruction, which we went over in one of the other videos, which you can check in the link down below or up in the corner. Another thing that camera movement can pile on top of is leading lines. And just to give you an idea of the basics of what leading lines are, this is our horizon. Now, if we have lines in our scene that aren't leading towards our subject, hence the phrase leading lines, it just kind of looks like this. Doesn't really look like anything. But if we change those lines, this now tells you where to look, and it actually looks like it gives you more of a prominent perspective. And that's what leading lines do. And you can use leading lines when you're actually composing your image. And when you incorporate movement into that, it accentuates the leading lines and it gives the audience purpose in terms of where the situation is actually leading towards or coming from. What we're gonna do is we're gonna hop over here, turn it on, power it up. I have a little setup over here in my trusty hallway. I've set up a small subject, just an old camera with a little bit of basic lighting, nothing too crazy at all. And we're gonna show how tracking and dolly moves can actually make the scene look much more dynamic and tell the viewer exactly where to look. So we're gonna jump over there and do that right now. Here we have our scene, and as you can see, if I start recording here, it's very basic. There's not a whole lot to it. It's a camera in a hallway on a little table. And first things first, what you can see is a lot of leading lines. What we're gonna do is try to use movement to create a little bit more interest and a little bit more dynamic movement to create more depth inside of the scene. So the first thing that we're gonna do is simulate a dolly move, which is when you move the camera in. So how do you do this on a tripod? Well, basically you eliminate 1 out of the 3 points of contact. So what I have here is a tripod, and what I've done is taken the back leg and leaned it back a bit farther. So normally the tripod would sit like this. I've decided to move one leg back like this, because what I'm gonna do is loosen up the tilt head on the tripod and then push the camera forward on the front 2 legs to simulate a push in or a dolly in. Basically, you want to have as close a point of contact to the actual camera. And then you just simply push while anchoring the front 2 legs of the tripod. It looks a little something like this. One key thing is to unlock the tilt, because what you're doing is as you're pushing in, you're tilting up, which keeps the image level, and that's what really sells it as a dolly move. Okay, that's all well and good, but how do you accomplish that for a tracking move, which is kind of like a slider back and forth? You track left and track right, and you dolly in and you dolly out. All right, well, you gotta do a little bit of work on the hardware. So I'm gonna go grab a little flathead screwdriver and I'm gonna show you exactly what you need to do to make this into a track left and track right situation. Take your camera off of the tripod, and then you take the remaining bolt and you and you loosen it and you turn it exactly 90 degrees, just like that. Okay, one big issue here. The camera's not pointing in the right way. All right, so let's readjust. I So now what we want to do, point them 90 degrees toward the subject. And then you take that extra leg and you move it down a little bit. So now what we're going to do is we're going to push it to the left when we're trying to land on our subject. And what this will do, we'll have the similar kind of move just with the back and forth situation. And likewise, you still want to keep the tilt head nice and level. That's really important to sell the entire move. So let's go ahead and give it a shot. So those two moves in a nutshell are the basic camera moves that you can do to create more depth inside of your scene. And as you can see from the footage, what it does is it creates a lot more dynamic movement and perspective shift that increases the amount of depth that you can have inside of your image. And that's the whole point, is you want to increase the amount of depth that the audience can see. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope you liked the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you love the video, go ahead and subscribe. Put out one of these things as often as I can lately. It's been once a week. Thanks for watching. Peace.